let's go over Jim Lampley's The Hype Game. And let's dissect this show based on the show that happened last night. Forget about the previous shows. Let's focus on the current right now. As we go frame from frame, what this show agenda was trying to accomplish for those who watch this show and they get brainwashed by what's going on this station. Now, Jim Lampley starts the show off. First of all, before we even go into that, this is how the BS system works. The show was supposed to air after the Golovkin fight, right? They'll credit this show as part of HBO's Boxing After Dark because it came on during the same time of the telecast. So the show, well, ratings will get bumped up higher. They did it last week with the Dark Knight Rises. When the credits were rolling, it went right into the boxing fight event. So all the people who were watching Dark Knight Rises, they saw the Mikey Garcia fight, and boom, there it was. You know, the ratings shoot up high. So they ran this whole card because the Macklin, well, whatever, that fight card ended early. So they just ran the show right after. But it comes up at the Boxing After Dark. But that's another thing. Let me not get off point. They start the show off with demising and belittling Sergio Martinez. You seeing all this Sergio Martinez getting knocked down. You're trying to get to a point. You're waiting. He goes about 6-7 minutes before he gets to his agenda of saying Sergio Martinez has been knocked down. He keeps getting knocked down. He's worn out. It's time for a new champion. It's Gennady Golovkin. Now, when this show first started, they said that they're going to talk about the events with no bias, no agenda by HBO or Showtime when this thing started. And ever since it started, it has been completely the opposite, extremely biased towards what? HBO and their agenda. Their agenda is to make Gennady Golovkin their champion, their middleweight champion, and they're going to glorify him, and he's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I have no problem with Gennady Golovkin because he at least can fight. But we don't need to be shoe-shined all the way. We don't need to be greased up. Now, his thing is Daniel Gill and Barker fight should be fighting Sergio Martinez or Gennady Golovkin. But what they want to do is minimize Sergio Martinez until they make the fight with Golovkin, because that's what HBO wants. Now, just last year, Sergio Martinez was the greatest thing ever for HBO. But now, since things are not going in their direction, to their agenda, now they got to bring him back down and tear down Sergio Martinez. That's how they work. Then it comes to the second level of the show. They shifted, of course, to Floyd Mayweather Canelo because they want to be fair. So he brings up on the fact that Mayweather doesn't fight twice in a year. It'll be the first time in 7 years since he did that. Okay, well, let's think about that for a minute. A year is what? 12 months, right? So he's saying Floyd Mayweather hasn't fought twice in 12 months since in 7 years. You see, I've had a lot of people that were idiots approach me and say the same thing. Even this Gabe Montoya, who I had to correct too for being a complete moron. And he said the same exact stupidity that Jim Lampley saw, and that's the brainwash. If a person fights, what they're counting is calendar years. But what does that have to do with a measure of inactivity? You see, if someone fights in December and then has a fight in February of the next year, would you say that person hasn't fought in a year? No, you wouldn't. You'll say that person had a fall. They last fought in December. They didn't fight for 3 months. Now, the last time Floyd fought the same in a calendar year was in 2007 when he fought De La Hoya, and then he fought Ricky Hatton at the end of that year. Then he came back in 2009, September. He fought Marquez in September. Then in 2009, and then in 2010 in May, he fought Shane Mosley. Those were 2 fights within 1 year in a 12-month calendar. Okay. Then he took a break. He came back in September 2011. He fought Victor Ortiz. Then he fought Miguel Cotto. He fought Victor Ortiz in September 2011. Then he fought Miguel Cotto May of 2012. Again, both fights within a year, within 12 months. So that's twice he's done that. Then a year later, he comes back and fights again on May. He fights, what's his name? Guerrero. Now he's fighting in September, so it's still 2 fights within a year's part. It's the same thing. So the level of inactivity that they're talking about really doesn't even make sense, because he has really been active. If you fight once in a year, but when you add Floyd's magnitude, the great fighters have always fought 1 fight per year. The Ray Leonards, the Oscar De La Hoyas, these guys were fighting once a year once they reached that plateau. Well, megastar. Now, that's beside the point. Now they're going to go into Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, who they, oh my God, Floyd will never fight this guy. Now that the fight is made, they're going to find a way to belittle him. It's just a matter of time. So him shaking his head that he even did the fight doesn't even make a difference. They bring in another idiot, Chris Mannix, to try to help them bank on the fact that, like, why is this fight being made, to try to degrade the fight. And of course, here comes Mannix, comes in here and says something stupid, that the Mayweather-Guerrero fight didn't live up to expectations. What are you talking about? This is Mayweather versus Robert Guerrero. Robert Guerrero, a guy who has never been on pay-per-view in his life. Okay, this is Robert Guerrero, whose probably biggest fight, I don't even think he made $1 million in his biggest fight. That Robert Guerrero, what expectations were you talking about? There wasn't even a press tour for that fight card. No press tour. And where was the money? I mean, what was the expectations? It did over 1 million buys pay-per-view, and you want to act like it's a failure? My thing is, if you're going to make that kind of comment on a show like HBO, you tell the fans what were the criteria. What were the expectations? If it didn't meet it, what was it? Tell us, instead of trying to push your agenda, saying it didn't. Anybody goes, oh, well, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. But what was it supposed to do? Tell us. We want to know. And this is the kind of garbage they feed you on a show like this. Next segment, they bring in Andre Ward. And they bring Andre Ward in and talking about if Canelo wins, how he moves up to number 2 and what it would be like for him to be number 1 pound for pound. It's just stupidity. The whole thing is stupidity. You're not in the fight. Here's a guy that's not fighting, moving up to pound for pound. And talking about moving him up to number 1 pound for pound without even fighting. That's just to show you how moronic it is. He's not even in control of that fight. But we'll come back to that later. That's a whole nother issue that was brought up on this stupidity, the hype game show. So this whole conversation with Andre Ward is meaningless. It's about what is he doing with his litigation with his promotional company, which he lost because he can't go anywhere, and nothing he's talking about is going to work because all of these things are having your management team being involved in the negotiation in the room when these deals are being done. You don't have that power in your contract. If it doesn't say it in writing, they don't have to honor you just because you feel a certain way. Then, of course, they bring up the match of you actually getting back in the ring. And now he's talking about getting in the ring with, oh my God, what a surprise, Chavez Jr. Okay? And all you idiots who sit up here who bag Ward as your pound for pound fighter, and you criticize Floyd for doing things of this nature that you accuse Floyd of doing, but now Ward do it, it's okay. It's okay. And this is what I'm saying, is you guys got to learn, just like the rest of them, stick to your agenda. If this is your criteria of why you picked Andre Ward, because he cleans out a division and all of this crap, then who is he supposed to fight? People in his division? If you're going to do that, then fight Gennady Golovkin. He's right there. He said he'll be more than glad to come out and fight you. But Chavez is more money. This is a guy who just got beat up by Sergio Martinez. That's the last we seen of him. Got smoked for 11.5 rounds. But this is who we want to see Andre Ward fight. What makes you think Chavez Jr. is a suitable opponent for Andre Ward? Those are the type of fights you want? Y'all should slap yourself for asking for it. Or saying it's okay, he going for the money. That's alright, man, he going for the money. There's money, and you get more money fighting Carl Fry over in the UK. He get more money fighting Butte over in Canada. He get more money fighting Pascal in Canada. Andre Ward versus Chavez Jr. will not break the bank. Trust me, it won't. And if y'all believe that fight is bankable enough to be a mega pay-per-view fight, then that's on y'all for believing in this stupidity.